Hey, good people. So I came on here because I was just watching a snippet of a podcast. They're called Board Teachers, and it's a collection of teachers. So they actually go around and do comedy shows. But I wish I could stitch the podcast on here, but I couldn't find it. But I was watching it on Facebook. But what the teachers were talking about, how you have to speak life into these kids. We were talking about that last night on the podcast. I will share a snippet of the podcast probably later on this week. Last night's podcast was the my title of the podcast was making your house a home, creating a safe environment for your children. And as teachers, we have to do the same thing in our classrooms. But my guest, Janelle, Coat with Janelle, made the comment. She called her presentation "The Real Safe House," and basically she talked about how her last point, which hit me, but she may have to come back and do an episode on that, affirmative action, and she capitalized affirm, and just make sure when you affirm your students or affirm your children, you really speak and act how you spoke. If you said they're beautiful, you shouldn't criticize how they look. You shouldn't criticize how they dress. If they're beautiful, they're beautiful. And the point I want to make with that is don't be afraid to speak life into your kids. Don't just keep saying you're going to keep in trouble. You don't know anybody need you to. Nah. And the ladies were saying how they really took the time to speak life into their kids. And even though the child kept messing up, one of her coworkers had to assure her, it may not sink in now, but eventually it will catch on. And I am a witness of kids who have come back to me years later. I was sitting in the barbershop. It always happens in the barbershop. A former student of mine, when I saw him, I immediately recognized him. And I was going to wait to see if he recognized me. And when he finally said, because I remember who you were, and you used to get on me, he explained why he did what he did. He said, all the stuff you said about me ran true. So it was like, okay, so just plant the seed, and eventually over time somebody's going to water it and it's going to come to fruition. The second point I want to make is, if you have to call home for bad behavior, a practice I modeled over time. Number one, even high school kids like to be recognized for good behavior, whether it's given a certificate, but follow up with a call home, because you'll be surprised at the number of kids who don't tell their parents what has happened and what has transpired that is good at school. So when I had to make it a point to call 3 or 4 parents for bad behavior or missing work or whatever, it was something bad, a concern, I would make it a point to call 2 parents for good reports. I just want to tell you how awesome your child is. They're very respectful. They come and do their work. Make it a point to make good phone calls. And if you don't never make any phone calls, make it a point to call at least one parent and let their child know how awesome they are.